So today is the 6th day of Nisan, the 4th of April. Okay, so we finished with Kmo al derech mashal. So on page Ayin Tet, in Korban Pesach and Derech Mitzvosecha. Kmo al derech mashal כשעושה המלך סעודה בשביל אנשים מכובדים. So now he gives us another mashal for what it means that the klipa is receiving without Hashem wanting it to receive. So he says, so what? So we'll see now. So he gives another mashal. How is this possible? So the king makes a great feast for many, many honorable people, and the stress is on honorable. Shemotzi mamon motzaro, he takes out a lot from his treasury to put this feast together. ומפזר בשביל כיבוד זה. שמגיע אחר כך גם כן עצמות ושיריים, לפחות לפי ערך, הגם שלא כיוון בשבילם. And in the end, what's left over from the feast? So there's shiraim. Shiraim means there's leftovers. And there's bones left over. So who do you give this to? To the animals on under the table. He says, what do you mean? So Hashem wanted this or didn't want this? So what do you say? Does the king want the bones? Why does he give the bones as an example? Leftovers is a little problematic. We'll talk about in a second. But the bones. Why is this the mashal? Why is this the idea? What do bones do? You can't roast an animal that doesn't have bones. There's no such thing. Because the animal had to be an animal, so it had to have bones. But then when you come and you say, so what good is the animal? So you don't say, oh, yeah, Hashem created the animal for the bones. You say that Hashem created the animal for the meat. So why are the bones there? Because without bones, there won't be support for the meat. So what is this like? This is the same thing as when you build a house, and you have to have, in Hebrew we say pigumim, you have to have supports while you're building it. Even when you put up a wall in America and you have a dry wall or whatever it is. So until it dries, it doesn't really need to dry, it's dry. But until the wall is standing, the wooden frame is in place, you have to have supports from two sides. And you keep it up. And you say, these supports, how could you want them? What do you mean, how could I want them? There's no house without them. But I can't live with this. This is not something that so there's always in every plan and everything that you make, there's always all kinds of intermediate stages that in the end will be left out.
Yeah, but before you serve the food, you can take the bones out.
No, you can't. You can't do that. Not with everything. You can't do that. You can't take a pulka, a nice piece of the foreleg of an animal, be it a chicken or anything else, and take the bone out. The whole point is that. Not only that, imagine you bring someone a steak, and you take the bone out. No, the whole thing is the bone-eyed steak.
The king is giving it.
It's
the person who served it is giving it. And he could.
No. The king wants it that way. He built the world this way. Hashem built the world in such a way that there needs to be support. There has to be things supporting it. So what do we say about the klipa? We say about the klipa is the protector of the fruit. What is a klipa? A klipa is a peel. And you can't have the fruit growing if there's not going to be. So the only difference is that in a fruit, it's an exoskeleton. It's on the outside. The skeleton
makes the klipa attractive or not, so we can eat it right away.
Right, so we know. Yeah. So we even know by the color. What? No. Anyway, we don't need it. You could also say the bones are edible, but we don't eat them. So what are we saying? We're saying that, of course, Hashem wants this. But He didn't want it in the sense of this was the main goal. This wasn't the main goal. But you have to have this to support the building. You can't put up the building without this. You can't put up the edifice without the bulwarks. It's not going to work. It's just how this world is. Why? You can say, okay, so why is there gravity? Maybe you could build a world without gravity. Maybe you could. But this is the world that He built, and in this world there are supports and constructs that you have to have in order to reach the goal. And so they eat from this, and they take this and they say, "What are we? We're just a support. We're a support group. We're not the main attraction. Of course, the klipa is not the main attraction. The whole problem with the world is when the klipa, the negative forces, they become the main attraction. They think they're on the center stage. That's the problem. But the fact that they have to be there for a time, and then you take them away. And that's exactly the same idea with appeal. Now, with the leftovers, it's a little bit more difficult. Because what does leftovers mean? Leftovers means you ate as much as you wanted, and there's leftover, there's too much. So what is that? So that also people could go crazy over. You could say, like, why is there leftover? What, you wanted there to be leftovers? He says, but you can't show wealth any other way. You can't show that there's a plenty, and a state of I have if there's no leftovers. So what are the leftovers? Leftovers really are indication of Hashem's greatness. There's always leftover.
Wow.
There's always leftovers. And if it wasn't, then who's Hashem? He's nothing.
In the siege of 48, I think I told you this, in Safat, they were sieged. And a Rab, a real Rab now, asked one of the altar Rebbeim who was there during that time, what did you do with the garbage? He said, there was no garbage.
Nothing was left over.
Because there was nothing left.
Yeah.
They were in a siege.
Yeah, there was nothing to...
That's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right? It's not the way. It has to be. When Hashem shows His wealth, when the king shows his wealth, there had to be leftovers. That's part of the... So leftovers... But that's by the king. What is it by me? So he says, by me, the leftovers are something entirely different. What does it show when I leave something over? So there's a big question about, do there have to be leftovers or not? So the leftovers in Chassidus are considered to be more important than the main meal. Right? You know this. The shiraim, by all the Rebbeim,
Oh, it was always the most...
the shiraim is the most important part. Why?
Why?
Because what does that show?
Wealth. It shows...
No, that shows Hashem's wealth. But what does it show by me?
Generosity?
No. That I'm able
To be like Hashem?
to use a little. I don't hold by myself.
Oh, it's a humility.
Yeah, it's my humility. The shiraim, the more shiraim there are, the more humility I have. Now they went so far. There's Chassidus, there's branches of Chassidus where the Rebbe never eats in front of the Chassidim. There's not even shiraim. There's nothing. He never eats. That's a different issue altogether, whether it's right or it's wrong, whether to do this or not to do this. In the end, they do eat. They just don't share the leftovers. But, okay, in any case, so these things, they're built into the system. You can't have a system, you can't have a world if you don't have these things. So he says the same thing with the klipa. It has to be there. Hagam shelo kiven bishvilam, although they're not the main attraction, they weren't there. That wasn't what he intended. He intended to show his wealth. He intended to bring the honorable people. Ki le'otzan v'mamut hamelech eino makpidum dagdeh kol kach. So if they're not the main attraction, what are they doing there? The dogs and whoever eats the leftovers and the bones, because he's so great. This is also part of his wealth, his greatness. That he doesn't pay attention to them. So okay, he doesn't. He's not makbid on them. How do you say makbid? Yeah, he's not. It's like we said about the gecko. As long as it minds its business, I'm fine with it. I don't have an issue with it. It's fine. This is part of how the world works. והנה גם התמצית והפירורים הפקר שלו יעלו לסך עצום גם בעיני השרים הגדולים כידוע. But his wealth is so great that even the greatest rich people in his kingdom, when they see what's left over in the bones, they say, this is you can make a fortune from this.
We don't have these kind of bones left over at our house. I mean,
I don't know.
It's relative, right?
Yeah, I don't know. You have to bring like 15 suckling calves to have stuff like that.
Yes.
So what did they used to say by Avram? זבל פרדותיו של אברהם אבינו, ולא זהבו וכספו של אבימלך. They say that the manure left over from just the asses. No, Avraham Avinu.
That was Yitzchak.
No, it's by Avraham.
Better the dung from Yitzchak's cows than the all Avimelech's wealth.
Maybe.
When he became wealthy after planting.
Okay, so by Yitzchak.
Have a look at the Rashi there.
Yeah, it's also by Avram when he came back from Egypt. In any case, could be. See, you're right. So what does it mean? That the manure that they leave over is more valuable than all the gold and silver that Amimelech, the king of the Philistines, has. Because he's so wealthy.
Oh, I see.
He's so wealthy that the manure is worth more.
More than,
Okay. וזהו מדרגת פרעה שהוא עורף דאריך אנפין. Now, this is almost the first time that he said this. He said it before, I noted it somewhere else. Yeah, it's on page 156. He said it. He never says it exactly, but in the Arizal there's this very simple word game that Paro equals ha'orif. Huh? Okay, so I know he's right. He said he's right. זבל פרדותיו של יצחק ולא זהבו וכספו של השם. If I would know the gematria of the statement, I wouldn't make the mistake. Because there's a big difference, 40 difference between them. Yitzchak and Avram. In any case, so the Arizal says that Paro is the same letter as Ha'orif. Ha'orif means the nape. And Paro has the same letters as Ha'orif. Hey, Ayin, Reish, Pei. So this is the second time he sort of mentions it, but I don't know why he didn't. And it's the nape of Arich Anpin, of the will. Ki Paro amar li yori mi havaya asher ashma bekolo she'aya yesh v'davar ve'af al pi chen kibel chayut ve'nika milemala. Because Paro is the symbol of being separate, of feeling yourself to be something separate. He so feels himself to be separate. He says, I am my Nile and I made myself. And the Nile for them was the source of all sustenance, so it was like a god. And so who is Havaya, he asks Moses. Who is Havaya who I should listen to him? He doesn't know Havaya. What does he know? He only knows Elokim. He knows Elokim. He has a concept of Elokim. All the non-Jews have a concept of Elokim. They just don't have a concept of Havaya. Elokim is that there's a force. Of course there's a force that's running the universe. If you don't believe that, how can you even... otherwise the universe would be a free-for-all. There would be nothing orderly. Obviously there's a force. But he doesn't have a Havaya. He doesn't have a creator. He doesn't have someone who this belongs to. And still Hashem wants him to be part of the story. And so he receives from above. And everything we've been talking about the circles and the backside, that he receives from the backside of the circle, that means that he receives from the backside of the orif, the backside of the neck, the nape. That's where he receives from. And what this is saying is that don't be impressed by the klipa. Hashem doesn't want it. It's only a support. It's just a bulwark to keep up the edifice until you can finish the construction. Don't be impressed by it. It'll fall away. Rasha yachin tzadik ilbash. Says the pasuk in I believe it's in Proverbs. The wicked will prepare the garment, and the tzaddik will wear it.
And the who?
The tzaddik will wear it eventually. Don't be so impressed by him. That's what he says to Moshe Rabbeinu. Don't be so impressed by Paro. Okay, I know he's getting a lot now, but this is the end of the previous meal. And at the end of the previous meal, all the animals get everything they want.
Can you make it this muscle all the way across to all Gashmias in a certain sense?
No,
because it all falls away at the end.
Okay. Yeah,
we're not going there.
No, because Hashem doesn't want it. He does want
the gosh, yes,
the physical, corporeal reality.
Yeah, in this yes, okay.
What he doesn't want is the people that take from it without serving him. They're not honorable. They're not part of his entourage. It's not part.
You mean who aren't recognizing it as part of him, in a sense?
Right. The ones who feel separate, so they're like picking up the scraps, but you're seeing the scraps of the previous meal. You're not seeing what's being built in the background. Okay, so hopefully next week we'll finish before Friday. So we'll be able to. Yeah, you gotta pick up some speed here. Okay, Shabbos.